What's going on, YouTube? I'm that cologne guy E, and this is Simply Put Sense. Hope you guys are well. I have a really interesting show today on this live stream. Usually, guys, we always talk about fragrance from a very abstract place. It's really interesting to talk about perfume, I think, from a more personal place, from a place that is a lot more relatable and interesting and even retrospective, nostalgic. There's so many different stories that kind of get us into this journey, and I really want to start discussing that and talking about those experiences, those fragrances that basically made us the enthusiasts that we are today. So this is going to be the entry episode of a series of episodes that I like to start doing, where I get to talk to you guys, the public, about fragrances that really made an impact on your life and fragrances that really matter to you. And I'm excited to talk to a very well, I could say he's an influencer, but he wouldn't say that. But a very knowledgeable person in the world of perfume who's taken on a very unique role for himself and is carving out a role for himself that I think is really unique and interesting. And I would love to talk about that and the fragrances that have made impacts on him in his fragrance journey. And that's going to be, I think, a really awesome time. What's going on, Rich Mitch? I hope you're good, bro. Um, so I I'll just tell you real quick. My scent of the day is a fragrance called Soul of the Forest by Replica. So Margiela, Maison Margiela, when they were doing fragrances a really respectable way, in my opinion, this came out. It was part of, like, I guess you could say, like, their niche line within the whole Replica series. These dark bottles with the silver gradient. Um, I love this one. The Soul of the Forest one, beautiful green, aromatic, amazing fragrance. Really sad that it was discontinued. I really don't understand also the direction Margiela is going on. I put that fragrance that they just created called, I think, On a Date on me. It's already gone. It's only been on my hand for about 3 hours and it's done. And it was a fragrance that when I smelled it, I thought, like, wow, it kind of reminds me of Pomegranate Noir by Joe Malone. Eh, it's very eh. It's a shame kind of where Margiela's going. I could do a cut the crap and add them on that. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, I would love to bring on David and just chat with him about these fragrances that matter to him. And let's get him on here. So David Dinsfriend is my guest, and here he goes. How you doing, Dave?
What's up, E? Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure, my man. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on Simply Put Sense. Um, please tell the guests, please tell my audience what you do. I really find it fascinating how you've created a niche profession in the world of fragrance in a way that's very interesting and interactive, and you really engage with people. Please share with everyone
hmm
what you're doing.
Absolutely. Well, a few months ago, I founded this little service called Saint Osmique, Saint Osmique for the French speakers, where basically I am a fragrance concierge, consultant, personal shopper type,
Nice.
uh, where clients ask me to find a good fragrance for them, like based on uh, whatever their preferences are, the occasion, et cetera, et cetera. Basically, like I meet with them for an hour plus. Usually, it's kind of like a therapy session almost,
Wow.
where I talk about, well, we talk about because they're really mostly the ones sharing
For sure.
yeah, just like their experience with scent, what they wear, anything that's like memorable to them in terms of either perfumes, colognes, or just like olfactory experience. Like, oh yeah, I remember this smell of such and such place when I was a
Mm.
child, and this like informed my taste and my palate and like whatever. Um, and so anyway, after like some time of like discussion and understanding what they really need, what they really want, I set out in New York City, go to a bunch of different perfumeries to find, whatever is most relevant. I usually like end up with, a dozen or so like samples, and then I like narrow it down to like five or six
Smart.
uh, that I put in a little box like this. That's very pretty. Um, and I like debrand if there's a brand on the bottle, and I just like number the vials like this so that it's like kind of a, I don't know if it's like focusing, but
I
anyway,
really
there's
dig
like
that.
a, yeah, there's like a little number two here. Anyway, and so it's a blind tasting or a
Mm.
blind smelling, so that they're like not influenced by a name or the idea that they might have of a brand and whatnot. So like to be as objective as possible.
Smart.
Um, and after like a week or so of testing, they get back to me and they say, "Oh, I really liked number three. What was that?" And I tell them, "Oh, that was such and such.
Right.
Would you like me to go purchase it for you wherever I found?" Well, I make the purchase wherever I find the sample, right?
Mm.
So if the
So if
pe-
so, like, what? I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm really, really curious to get
Mhm.
an interesting thought. And what kind of, like, what are the questions you would ask someone who is coming to get a service from you? Like, what? How do you probe to find out like what their tastes are, um, and how does that inform your choices as far as like the options you pick for them?
Well, so I feel like one very uh, like common question, like a question that like comes back all the time is,
Hmm.
what are you wearing right now? How long have you been wearing that?
Hmm.
And how did you find that in the first place? And
Interesting.
tell me why you like it or why you don't like it anymore, and why you would like to change, perhaps, and how far off from what you're wearing currently do you want to go? And if there's like a specific direction that you want to go, tell me. And
Do you find that
what's
most people? Do you find that? I'm sorry to cut you off. Do you find that
no,
most
no.
people do not know what they want, or do you
Um,
find that people have an idea already in their mind?
yeah, I feel like it's pretty variable.
Mm.
A lot of people like lack the vocabulary. I mean, lack. I mean,
No, that
it's
makes
not
sense.
easy to talk. It's not easy to like talk about perfume,
Absolutely not.
perfume,
You're right.
cologne, whatever. Yeah.
Most
So
people only know the words like fresh, clean,
clean. I get clean
spicy,
all the time.
right?
Clean is clean is
That's the
overused.
word. Yes, yes, for sure.
Yeah, overused. Um, I don't know. I mean, there are like a handful of scents that maybe smell dirty, but
Hmm.
really not that many.
The new
Um,
Rockaway Beach, by the way, by DS and Durga, you have to smell that if you want to try a dirty fragrance. Like when I smelled it,
okay.
brother, it really reminded me of Rockaway Beach, but not in the way you might think. I mean, like, think like dirty ocean water. You can't see your feet. Think like seaweed and syringes all in the same place. It's
Oh
weird. It's
man.
kind of metallic. That's why. It's
Uh-huh.
so for any. It's such a very, very unique fragrance. So David did something very unique.
Interesting.
But wait till you smell that fragrance. I'm sorry to go off on a tangent, but yeah.
No. It makes me think of Magnifique Sécrétion or Sécrétion Magnifique. I
Exactly.
can never remember because it's also like kind of like metallic and
And that's what I
obviously
thought
like,
when I smelled it.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait till you
Yeah,
smell it.
it's
It's gonna blow
funny.
your mind.
Okay, yeah, definitely, will do. I kind of like those like polarizing scents, not
Hmm.
necessarily like to wear myself, but just to like recognize that someone is doing something maybe a little bit
Exactly.
braver than, just like doing the nth shower gel smell.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I kind of found it like I found it interesting for a idea for a fragrance, but I found it almost like a novelty scent, kind of like the
Hmm.
Secretion Magnifique.
Right,
It
right, right.
reminded me of like something that you would just have to kind of like actually there's like a Seinfeld episode way I don't know if you ever watched Seinfeld, but back in the day there was like a Seinfeld episode on reruns you know but there's this back in the 90s, this character named Kramer, he thought of a fragrance that smelled like the beach, right? And
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
from there, Aqua de Joe came out. But actually, this fragrance, Rockaway Beach, that smells like the beach, but like the beach in New York, very,
Yeah,
very
yeah, yeah, yeah,
dirty urban beach.
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, let me not get you off. But you were talking about like the things that the things that you ask folks to probe their taste and to get an idea of like what they might like or what they might not like. I'm sorry to cut
Hmm.
you off.
Hmm. Yeah, no. So yeah, just trying to like get a good sense of their preference first with words, but then I have them like smell a bunch of samples that I have. Either I do it like several ways. It really depends, on like how informed they seem to be in regard to perfume. Either they kind of like randomly, I can like curate a like little, I don't know, like Ziploc bag basically of like little vials, and they'll
Right.
just like draw, like 5 or 6 of them. Or if they
Wow.
don't seem like super informed, I will like pick a bunch of stuff myself from a very like neat folder. I don't have it here, but whatever. And basically from there I just uh you know spray it on a blotter, have them smell it, and talk about their experience. What, like, do you like this? What does it remind you of? If anything, I don't know. Like, can you like tell me what's going on? In your senses, in your nose, in your brain right now as you're smelling this,
Wow.
and tell me if it's like a little bit too much of this or a little too little of that, and if there's like anything more that could be done, like more or less, for you to like prefer, like a scent that would be basically that with more or less or different and this or that. I don't know if that makes sense.
No,
What I
I
just
get
said.
you. I get you.
Um, so
Do you find that people can be really, do you have a, I feel like everyone that's ever worked in sales or ever dealt with like a service type of industry or business have had like the tough customer. That customers that's just really, really difficult to please. They don't like anything. They're very, very specific. Have you ever, first of all, have you ever met that person yet since you've been doing what you're doing so far?
I feel
You
like
don't have
I've
to
been
say any
very
names, but
blessed with uh nice, easy to work with
okay.
clients so far.
Lucky you,
Um,
man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, definitely. No, I'm counting those blessings, for sure. But yeah, I'm sure there will be one day I'll get like my first really difficult client, and we'll see how it goes. But I trust my nose. I trust my, yeah, my
And
senses.
I
So,
love that you say that because that's one of the things that so many men lack. Like we lack that ability to trust our taste, and we always rely
mhm,
on other people to basically decide for us how we smell. It always
mhm,
starts off with like the women in our lives, purchasing us
mhm,
gifts and presents for
mhm.
special occasions, and by the time we're about to shop for ourselves, it's like, what do we like? We just
Mhm,
like,
mhm.
and then that's what we always, and then that's what when we always follow that. What's your bestseller? I'll get that. And that's
Yeah, yeah,
why fragrances like Sauvage becomes bestsellers, and Dior thinks they
yeah.
can come out with an elixir for $250.
Ah,
So
goodness.
so
Yeah.
I find that that's a very, very. How did you develop that confidence in your taste? Like, how did you find a way to trust your own taste?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's an excellent question. Well, so I come from a family of, I guess, sensitive people, or like
Okay.
people who like to cultivate either their like sensitivity, like, how can I say, not necessarily just like emotionally, but like really, there's an idea of like refinement in like taste or something. Like
Mm.
my grandfather on my mother's side was a concert pianist, for example.
Okay.
He came from a family of like ceramicists and potters in like southern France.
Got
He
it.
married a person, my grandmother, who like had ambitions as a painter, like in the 40s, 50s. Like she worked in
Wow.
an atelier in Paris with like a famous cubist and like whatnot. And I feel like on that side of the family, there's this like kind of, yeah, importance. Like they felt it was like important to like cultivate this, sensitivity, sensuality, taste, and I guess to some degree, like, uh, I mean, it sounds like weird and not
Well,
like really
actually,
great.
well, actually,
Yeah,
one of the things I picked up automatically is like, so you come from a family of artists, and artists tend to be people who don't really care about what other people think. They're
right.
very, very, they're just people who just know if they're great artists or if they are decent at what they do. Typically, they just don't follow the leader. They have their own perspective, especially when they're at the top of their game. They really just, it's all about their perspective and like analyzing that, probing that, and developing that perspective. So that's probably like, even though you didn't say that, that's probably partly what helps you have like break out of that monotony of just settling for what everyone else likes and being
Hmm,
able to be
hmm.
confident in your own taste. That's like an artist energy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think it's also like I have like a number of experiences that kind of like confirmed some kind of uh uh like sharpness in sense.
Got you.
I mean, this would be like a great segue for like the very first um uh like scent that like influenced me in my journey,
Let's
actually.
go. I'm
I
curious.
could like go I could like go right away.
Yeah.
Uh um so yeah, well, just like one last thing about like this family thing. So like on my grandfather's family there was this kind of uh what's what's the term in English? But just kind of like jokey story that like on that side of the family we have good noses. Like we can pick up smells like pretty well.
Mm,
Um, it's like on the Gautier side of the family, we have like the Gautier nose is a good nose, right?
mm.
Um, and I feel like that sort of like started for me. I was like trained, actually. I mean, trained very like informally,
Right.
but I'd spend like vacation in the south of France, and like even at age 7, something that's maybe weird in the States, but it wasn't too weird over there. They would like take me with them to like taste wines, in like winemaking, estates and like whatever. And so I could like smell and taste and like be curious about it and like start comparing smells and tastes, and so that was like a very early exposure to like that kind of thing, to like developing discernment. uh um
Living
Discrimination
in
is not a
Europe.
great word, but like in sense. Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's awesome.
um yeah, only in Europe, yeah, for sure, yeah. No, my
Be a
parents would
little
have been
different if you
arrested.
lived in Jersey, you
Um,
know?
oh yeah, 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 definitely. So so anyway, that's like how I got kind of started early. And again, like, so
Mm.
foundational moment with scent was one of those vacations, maybe like a year or two after I started like tasting wines. They made sure I spit it out, right? In the
Nice.
south of France. Um, I didn't always spit it out.
Nice.
Uh, um, yeah, I wanted to have some extra good time. Um, anyway, we were on vacation at like Club Med in the south of France. And I was like coming back from my like, I don't know, tennis lesson or something. Uh, I was, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old, can't remember,
Wow.
and went back to the apartment or like room, whatever, in this like vacation complex thing, and the door was locked, so I couldn't I couldn't get in, but I smelled my mom's perfume.
Wow.
I was like, oh, my mom was here like not long ago. She like left like minutes ago because I can smell her perfume right now.
Wow.
So
Was it?
I
Did she always wear this scent? Was it like known as her scent?
So I had like totally identified it as like her scent by that time.
Mm.
So that scent like came out in 1996. It was Allure by Chanel.
Ah,
Um, and so I
classic.
think I had like smelled it on her probably for, at least a year by that time. So of course I would assimilate it uh to my mom. Um, so yeah, I smelled that, oh, my mom left a few minutes ago. So I like turn around and go down the hall and smell. I'm like, yeah, I can still smell her. I turn left. I'm like, I don't think I can smell her anymore. So I go back and like turn right. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I'm like picking it up again. And basically just like following this like scent trail all the way to the cafeteria area that was like really kind of a far walk, but I ended
Wow.
up finding her uh, just from like being this like little dog boy following this like trail of scent. Um, and
What
so
do you
that was
remember
like
about it? Like, what
about
is your what is your memory about that fragrance that you connect with, and when you smell it, it just brings back like where does it take you?
yeah, I mean it's kind of like beyond words. It's pretty visceral. It's like it's less about, being like very analytical or like, how can I describe it? Yeah, it's like a little peachy, it's a little soapy, it's a little whatever. But like in my brain, it was like, nah, this is mom. This is what my mom smells like, right? And so it was
Amazing.
like that. It was that deep, right? Um, so yeah, that's what it felt like. Really, it was.
Do
I
you
am
come into
smelling. I
contact with?
wasn't smelling Allure. I was smelling mom,
I
right?
that's amazing. That's so amazing. Do you ever have you ever? This is a random question, but have you ever been on a date where a woman decided to wear that fragrance out,
No,
or have you ever
no, no,
encountered that fragrance
no.
outside? Okay, no.
Well, so not on dates. I mean, I've
Okay.
smelled it, you know, in the streets or whatever, but
Mm,
not on women that I was, trying to date or
got
whatever.
you.
No, 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 no.
That's interesting though. Like no, because the reason that would have been a very fascinating, you know, like because they say a lot of times like men as men we are attracted to women that remind us of our mothers, you know, like
Oh yeah,
subconsciously, you know, not really purposeful, but you know,
right, right.
that's
No, that
interesting.
that would
But
have been some like psychoanalysis weird moment.
oh
No,
no,
thank
okay.
God that did not happen.
So
Uh,
Chanel Allure that was like Chanel Allure for women. That was the fragrance that really set you off into the world of perfume. How was it impactful? Like from that fragrance on, that was like when you, I guess, attached like sentiment to a perfume. I guess you could say.
so I think that was more than anything like the moment I knew that my nose was all right. Like I could smell stuff, and uh, but it wasn't. I was pretty young. I was kind of still a young boy, so like I didn't really like care about perfume that
Mm,
much. I really cared about finding my mom.
mm,
So used perfume for that. Um, I guess the this is a perfect segue into like the second thing that I
mm-hmm.
wanted to talk about was what actually kind of influenced me uh, to be more interested in the world of scent as a you know like uh, place of you know art and culture or like something just like it's not just like scent is not just mom or dad. It's
Right.
like yeah, there's a whole world of perfumes and scents out there uh, that is to be discovered and like appreciated or known. And I think my earliest influence into that was a childhood friend that I had. Like we really grew up together. Um, I don't know, age 6 to I don't know, my late teens or something. We were,
Wow.
seen as kind of like, oh yeah, are you guys brothers or something? Because you look really close and you kind of look the same. You like the same things, whatever. We were like same basketball team, whatever.
Got
Um,
you.
his dad was a nose for Firmenich and Givaudan.
Oh, nice.
And
Wow.
yeah, yeah,
See,
yeah.
that's a pretty unique, interesting story. That wow. So you grew up with a friend whose father was a nose. Okay, is a nose. Is he's
Yeah.
okay?
I think he's still formulating stuff actually. I'm not
Amazing.
like super I'm not following, his career closely. I
Mm-hmm.
moved away from, Switzerland, where I grew up, like 10 plus years ago. Um, and yeah, I kind of like fell out of friendship with with my childhood friend
For
for
sure.
silly reasons. So it doesn't really whatever. Um,
That's what
but
Facebook's for.
yeah, I don't really use Facebook anymore. But yeah. Um, so yeah, he was like influential in the sense that, he was a nose. So we were like,
Right.
what is that? That seems cool. Like he's like this organ that we have in the middle of the face, but what does that mean? And oh, he helps like concoct, perfumes for like these like luxury brands and whatnot. It's like, oh, okay, so it sounds like serious business, but also something like that's pretty artful. Uh,
Mm.
that's pretty interesting. And I thought that I had a good nose from the Gautier side, but like my friend's dad, like had his whole career, that was around his very talented nose.
Mm.
So uh,
That's fascinating because I got to tell you, for years, honestly, brother, for years, I used to think brands were were the noses. I used to think
mhm,
Chanel
mhm,
came up with a Chanel fragrance or Dior came up with a
right.
Dior fragrance. I had no idea it was an individual artist that was literally just contracted by them to do the product.
Mhm,
But that was like shocking to me
mhm.
because as artists they don't really get a lot of they don't. I would say, as artists, perfumers are the least appreciated artists. I would say one of the most least appreciated, one of the least appreciated artists in the world of art, in all kinds of mediums. They're just unsung. But I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, no. I mean, I agree. I agree. But I think they're probably like unappreciated just because the whole sense of smell is unappreciated. And it's like very. Uh, it's not very complex. It's like yeah, we have this kind of basic standardized idea of like what smells good versus what smells bad, and like anything beyond that is like whatever. Why should we even care? I don't know. We have movies, we have music. It's like smelling things. um, I feel like also, especially for people who live in cities and who have not had all the experiences of like smells from out in nature or whatever, it's like scent doesn't necessarily work as strongly with memory for them, right? Because like
Okay.
they don't have those memories, right? And this is actually like something that I'll touch upon like later when I talk about another scent, is like that aspect with memory.
Hmm.
Um, like memory of a place, memory of a time, et cetera, et cetera. And like when you grow up in a city, it's like cities are pretty smelly. I don't
Yeah.
know. And so like if you smell like, a really great fig, you're like, okay, cool. Yeah, that's a really great fig, but it's not bringing me back to anywhere. It's just like this
Right.
kind of I'm experiencing this thing that's like very new and maybe I like it, but there's like this whole back thing that doesn't really exist as much, right?
Right. Like just to give you
Um
an example, I figs, for instance, I guess you could say the only exposure to fig I ever had was fig Newtons, like these little like cookies that we used to eat as kids.
yep.
Because when I was a young man in New York, there were no fig trees available for me to
hmm
experience. So that's the
hmm hmm
perfect encapsulation of what you were saying.
Yeah, yeah. And that like Dias and Durga scent that smells like Rockaway Beach, right? It means something to you maybe, but like for someone in like Grasse or like wherever southern France will be like, ugh, I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't know where this is like taking me back. This smells
next to
like
a pond.
Paris. And like Paris is dirty, you know, or
Right,
like,
right, right.
you know, um, yeah.
Oh no,
Uh
I'm beating this thing up, guys. You gotta smell it. That's all I gotta say. But go ahead.
yeah, no, I really want to. I really want
Wait a
to
minute.
smell
So
it.
wait a minute. Who is the perfumer?
Oh, the perfumer for that DS and Durga thing?
No, the perfumer who was the nose of your friend's father,
Oh,
who was the
it's
nose.
yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna
Francis
look it up.
Deleamont.
Ooh,
Francis Deleamont. Deleamont. Francis Deleamont.
Deli Amon.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. And it's
Shout
okay.
out Francis.
Wow. I'm gonna just show the audience who you're referring to, just
hmm
so they can have an idea of the gentleman. And please continue.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah,
was there a particular fragrance that Mr. Deliamont did he share with you any of the behind the scenes process that he was going through to develop a fragrance or
I wish. I wish. No, no, no. There was none of that, unfortunately. But for like my birthday or like my friends' birthdays, like because I had a group of friends, he would like gift little vials of his own preparations, and there was like
Mhm.
one that was kind that had some kind of like mystique, and he called it a cigar club.
Nice.
And like, when you're, I don't know, 11 years old, it's like, well, this thing is called Cigar Club. It's about cigars and tobacco, and it's like very, manly and gentleman-like and whatever. And so it's like, yeah, it has tobacco notes in it and whatnot. So it like felt very grown-uppy.
Hmm.
And so everybody wanted to have Cigar Club. But only a lucky few got Cigar Club. I got something else. I don't remember the name, and I was like not really into it. And he was like extremely offended when he found out that I just kind of like kept it like as a toilet scent, um, toilet spray. I was 11 years old. I didn't know
Oh
any better.
no.
Um,
That is hilarious. Oh no. Go ahead. That's so funny.
yes, yeah, yeah. So no cigar club for David. But yeah, I mean,
He did a fragrance called Oriental Dream by Angel Schlesser. I don't know if you ever heard of that brand, but it's a brand very few people even know about. I'm showing the fragrance now online on the screen. This scent is a scent that I actually own, and it is really, really beautiful. And very few people even knew it existed. And it has very good ratings. It lasts, and the notes are pretty unique. It doesn't smell like anything that you would expect in a designer presentation. It was very, very, very well done, especially for a fragrance line that you don't really know about. And it was definitely worth. It was definitely priced at under $150. I was able to get mine at a discounter back in the day, but very, very talented guy. He also did the Boucheron fragrances, which are classic perfumes for men. Um, Boucheron Homme pour Homme is it's a legend fragrance, especially amongst the elders, older gentlemen that used to
Mhm.
buy banks and property. um, but that's
That
a
scene.
that's a that's a fascinating experience to have like a friend whose father is a perfumer. I mean, man, imagine if he did, you probably would have turned into a perfumer yourself.
I
did
I would
it?
have liked that. I would have liked that, to be
Did his
honest. Yeah.
son ever get into it as you
Nah,
guys got older?
his son uh became like the crowd that owns property and
Ah,
stuff.
there you
Yeah, yeah,
go.
yeah.
There
Yeah,
you
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
hurt that. I
He can
appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, he can buy a lot of his dad's scents if he wants.
Poof,
Um
I believe you. That's
um
awesome, my man.
yeah.
So, what is the? Well, I would love to know the next fragrance that really, really had an impact on your life
hmm
and your journey.
So uh yeah, there were like a few scents in my life from like that point to the next point that I'm going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I was influenced, I guess, like by what my dad was wearing.
Mm.
Uh
Which
what
was?
He wore Smalto by Francisco Smalto, Paris. I
Wow.
don't think it's like still a thing, but I remember it being pretty good. Pretty good.
Wow.
It was a nice like peppery fougere type of thing. Um, it was
Wow.
pretty nice. Yeah, yeah. I think he also liked the
Smalto.
idea of being like slightly more niche. Than it's like, oh, everyone's wearing Armani and everyone's wearing this and that. I'm gonna wear Smalto, this like little weird thing from Paris.
Oh
Um,
no.
yeah, yeah. And
It's so
so,
Fragrantica.
yeah. hmm
It's got a 4.3 rating out of 5, which is insane. It's beating tons of
Not bad.
fragrances. Um,
hmm
does do you remember that scent? It's like this. Is it etched into your brain like Chanel Allure?
Oh man, that was a long time ago. I
It's
I
it,
don't know
it
if I could like recognize it if I smelled it in the streets,
mm,
but I recognize like others that he wore, like Fahrenheit was a big moment. Also, I usually recognize it because I didn't like it when I was growing up, and like when my dad would like kiss me goodnight or something, and I'd like
oh, you
smell it
didn't like
on his
Fahrenheit
cheek. Yeah, I
or
didn't like
small? Oh,
Fahrenheit.
wow.
Like at the time, I did not like Fahrenheit. I was like, no, just get another bottle of Smalto. That shit was like way better. But yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Did it smell like gas back then? I mean, because the old bottles back then had a
Yeah, yeah,
distinct
yeah. No, there,
petrol
there, there was
smell.
there was definitely something like, yeah, a little bit gasoline-ish, like ozonic and
Mm,
whatever. And like it used to give me, I mean, it's maybe a little bit excessive, but it would start headaches.
wow.
I wouldn't be like in insane like painful migraines, right? But
Wow.
it would definitely it was not pleasant to me. And I've like smelled that on numerous people and like have had like experiences in the wild of, you know, for example, at like the airport, I was like standing behind someone who was like paying for his sandwich at a cash register and whatever, and the person working the register asked the gentleman in front of me like, "Ooh, I love your scent. What is it?" And I was like, "Oh man, he's wearing Fahrenheit." so
Oh no.
so
Well,
he
yeah,
he left.
that fragrance is very distinctive. I mean, you
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know it as
yeah.
soon as you smell it. Even the new versions, it's like Fahrenheit. Yeah.
yeah. And so
But it's still great. I
I
think it's
told the
one of,
cashier,
uh-huh.
yeah, I told the cashier and I told her that I hated it.
Oh
No,
no.
but no, that it was unnecessary. But no, I didn't tell her that I hated it. I told her that it gave me headaches, and that's why I recognized it, so she could trust me.
Dang.
Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Smooth. Smooth. Casanova.
smooth. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Um,
So that next sense that so I guess you would say you're into fougères.
uh, I like
Did your father
fougères.
inspire that? Okay.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of like a classic gentleman-y, like sometimes associated with like barbershoppy smells.
Hmm.
But yeah, I kind of like fougères, and like I liked it on my dad when he was like wearing Smalto, for example.
Smalto.
But yeah, but I was not wearing fougères pretty much at all. I like growing up, I wore, I don't know, like Tommy Hilfiger, I think was like one of
Nice.
the earliest ones. Actually, the earliest one was Blue Jeans by Versace. Um,
Wow.
and
The blue
I think
bottle
that's,
version.
yeah.
Got it.
And I think it's kind of underrated. I would
I
like
could
to
see
smell
that.
it again. I would like to smell it again. It's been so long, but it's not a bad scent.
There's a
Um,
couple of Versace blue jeans flankers that were really on point,
mhm,
but they were
mhm.
always discontinued. That's how
Yeah,
it always
yeah.
goes. But yeah.
Sad. Um,
So you was wearing kind of like Versace blue jeans,
yeah,
Tommy
yeah,
Hilfiger,
yeah.
um,
I was
got it.
wearing L'Homme
Clean,
from Yves Saint Laurent.
of course.
I think I was wearing Very Valentino at some point, which I cannot
Okay.
find anymore. But I need to look a little harder. But I think I remember that being
Wow.
like pretty good. Um,
Yes.
yeah.
Very good.
And so yeah, got like a bunch of stuff that, I didn't think about too much. It was just like, yeah, I kind of like the smell of this, and I was like influenced by this or the other thing.
Hmm.
But around age, I don't know, 23, 24, I was like, I need my signature scent.
Okay.
I don't
That
I
scent
don't
that
know, like,
defines you.
sorry.
That scent that would define David.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Got it.
Because I don't want to like be wearing, like L'Homme from Yves Saint Laurent that everyone else is like wearing. It's like I need to smell a little bit different, like a little
Wow.
bit
At
more.
23, you made this revelation.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. It takes a lot of men past 30 to think like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, keep going. I'm sorry.
I mean, I kind of like feel slightly differently about signature scents now. Uh, as far as I mean, I'm like, I'm happy to help people find their signature scent if that's where they
Right.
are and that's what they want, that's what they need. Absolutely. I have no problem with the idea, right? But just like for myself, now that I've like smelled so many things and like so many things smell amazing, and also a lot of stuff like smells bad, but for like the amazing
I get
stuff,
your
I'm like,
point.
wow, I kind of would like to wear this.
Right.
I don't just want to have like one scent that I have to stick to and like be loyal to or and whatnot. It's I like the idea of being able to pick, among a collection of things depending on my mood, depending on the occasion, depending on the time of day, the temperature, the whatever, and like whatever
100%.
fits like my horoscopes,
Right.
so to speak. I'll have a scent for that,
I tell people it's like
basically.
I look at
Um,
fragrance like a pair of shoes. Like they are literally
mhm,
just they accentuate your look, they complement your style, and they're just expressions or extra ways to express yourself. And people should take the opportunity more seriously,
mhm, mhm,
so that way they're not expressing or communicating the wrong things. Because I think you could tell a lot about a person through the fragrances that they choose to wear.
mhm, mhm. True, true. No, I think that it like can absolutely be a very deliberate and like meaningful thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Uh, anyway, so when I was like looking for my signature scent, it took me a while.
Okay.
It's like I really spent so much time in different perfumeries in Switzerland. I was like still in Switzerland at that time. And
Wow.
in Geneva, there's like a high perfumery where they have like a bunch of pretty nice like niche stuff.
Mm.
Uh, Theodora, shout out to them. And Yeah, I just like became friends with the workers there because they'd see me all the time, smelling everything, trying
Wow.
everything, like you've seen me doing at Bergdorf. um,
Exactly.
uh, yeah,
And that's pretty
and
interesting that you do that, that you
after I don't
educate
know
your
how
nose.
many months, I don't know how much.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
No, I was saying, and that's awesome that you do that, that you actually take a lot of time to actually explore fragrances and educate your nose on things. A lot of people don't do that, but you clearly don't find it a chore to explore perfume. It's not like, it's not time wasted to you, clearly,
Oh yeah,
because you
no,
spent
I
hours
think
at Bergdorf.
it's. Oh yeah, no, for sure, for sure. There's this saying that's actually etched on the side of a building in Brooklyn.
Mm.
Uh, I'll translate it from Latin so I don't sound like too much like a pedantic fool. Uh, but it's art. Uh, Life is short, art is long, and
Mm.
so there's just like so much to see, so much to smell, so much to taste, so much to try that like for me it's just it's a joy to like spend time of my limited lifetime like just discovering what's out there, right?
A hundred
um
percent.
so I'm like, oh man, wow, like some like very talented nose came up with this you know formula or composition that like smells absolutely gorgeous, and like I get to smell that because I spent enough time to like end up smelling it, right? And like
Mm.
if I hadn't, I wouldn't have been able to smell it, and I feel like I would have been missing out, you know.
Nice.
And I'm like really glad I smelled this. It's like, oh, I'm really glad I heard this music piece, or I saw this movie, or I read this book,
A
right?
hundred percent.
Because I feel like my life is enriched because of it, right?
A
So
hundred
that's
percent.
that's how I treat it. That's how I treat it. It's just
And
like,
and the thing is, most of us don't usually find the thing that we love. Like most of us can't
mhm,
find like a distraction from life that we actually enjoy. You know,
mhm,
and it's awesome to find things that you're passionate about that you can really immerse yourself in, because I really think that does make life more fun, entertaining, interesting. It makes your life less stressful when you find things that you love, that you enjoy doing. Um, if you can find a way to create a career for yourself, like you're doing, like I'm doing, within that field that you love, it doesn't feel like work at all. And that's a true comment. That's a true statement. Like when you do what you love, it's never work. But back to Dave, I got to find out what this signature scent was. What was this signature
sorry.
scent?
I'm
No, no,
like
no, no.
taking
I'm
so
the one
many
taking.
tangents.
No, I'm taking you on tangents. That's what happens when fragrance people talk. It just happens. Like
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
who's
yeah.
watching this gets it. Because when they're talking to their people who love perfume, you go down these rabbit holes, and it's just natural. That's why I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to do this, because it just leads to one thing to another, and these conversations are interesting. Because we all have them if we love fragrance, when we
Mm-hmm.
love
Hmm.
fragrance. But yeah, what is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
fragrance that was like that signature scent in your 23 years? At your 23 years.
So so drum roll. Yeah. So I have it here. It's what I settled for. Uh,
Wait a minute. Why you say
I can
settled?
make.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead.
well, because there are like so many things. There's so many things. First,
Okay.
actually, I chose something that I'm glad it didn't like work on my skin at first. It
Mm.
was l'anarchiste de Caron, uh,
Oh
Caron's
wow.
anarchist. It was like in that copper bottle, and
Yes.
it's like kind of a weird, spicy, warm, like not warm, like hot fragrance. But there was like something in the formula, I think like some kind of like cinnamon thing that did not agree with my skin, so I just couldn't wear it. But I think that's
Mm.
for the better because I don't know if I would have uh, I don't think I would have been able to like wear that on a very regular basis. It's pretty
It's a lot,
it's
huh?
pretty weird. It's not bad, but it's a lot, yeah.
A lot
So
of I've
I
heard things about it. This is the fragrance,
yeah,
by the way, guys. But go ahead.
so I ended up going for Frédéric Mal's Frédéric Mal apostrophe S Vétiver extraordinaire that I have here.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nice.
So just, like
Vetiver
I
extraordinaire by Frederick
liked
Malle. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Beautiful,
I
beautiful
liked
green fragrance.
vetiver in general. Like to
Mm.
me was just like such a interesting and like complex thing to work with. There are like so many aspects of vetiver that you can like bring out, and I thought that the very like bright and like uh, peppery and woody aspect of this root was like brought out very nicely in this concoction. Like sometimes it's like more dark, creamy, like
Mm-hmm.
soft in the edges. This one is like pretty, you know, like virile is the word in English. I don't know. It's like it's kind of like a flex. It's like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a dude wearing this like
Yes.
powerful vetiver scent.
Little hair
And
on your chest type of fragrance for sure.
yeah, 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 yeah. A little hair on the chest, but like also like clean and like distinguished and like,
Like a boss
whatever. So
fragrance.
yeah, it was kind of a boss fragrance for sure. Yeah,
I gotta ask you, so
absolutely.
because I mean, at 23, to appreciate that style of scent, I mean, I gotta say though, Vetiver Extraordinaire doesn't come across like an old school vetiver, even though it was made like almost 20 years ago, I think. Um, it seems to be a fragrance that has like over 21 years ago, but it's a fragrance that has aged very, very well. What about that fragrance really like spoke to you at that age? And were you not
I
afraid? Wait, wait, real quick. Were you not afraid to smell like an old man when you smelled it? Because that's the thing. A lot of
yeah,
men they fear that they don't want to smell mature. A lot of men in their 20s, especially in their younger 20s, they don't want to smell mature. You want to look
right,
mature, but you
right.
don't want to come across that. But in your scent. So, how did you
Yeah.
overcome that? Did you ever think that?
Um, no, it didn't really like occur to me because like to me this was not an old man scent.
Okay, nice.
Yes, like vetiver like is used in like many like cologne style things like that are, aromatic, sometimes medicinal. Yeah, like barbershoppy, whatever.
And I don't agree
But
with that term, by the way, because old man fragrances, I think, is such a disrespectful term. I just look at fragrances that come across a little bit more serious as fragrances that would attract like an older gentleman. And also certain fragrances that come across what you would consider an older gentleman fragrance, they just smell more expensive and refined compared to like more casual
mm,
scents that younger men wear or like. But yeah,
mm,
I just wanted to make that distinction because I find that kind of pejorative to describe fragrances as old and young because I think older people
yeah.
have a fun side and younger people have a serious side, you know. So it's nothing wrong with having fragrances that fit the various aspects of ourselves, you know. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean for sure. I would say that yeah, ageism and sexism and whatever has no place in like perfumery, for sure.
For
I don't
sure.
see like old versus like young as being like necessarily pejorative.
Mm,
I see
okay.
it more like an idea of like canons. It's like, this scent is like encapsulates what was like hot and cool in the 80s, right?
Mm,
Or in the 70s, right? And so this is how like cologne was approached in the 70s, and therefore like in 2023 we'd be like, oh, if I smell that I might associate it with like my grandfather or something who was like wearing that because he thought it was cool in the 70s and like wore it ever since, and so I'm associating this smell with something that an old person would wear, right?
Right.
Um, but smell is like, I don't know. It's been around since forever. There's
Right.
not like old or young or like whatever. It's just, I guess, like canons. It's also like ways to dress, right?
Exactly.
If I was like wearing a like 16th century like weird, you know, tapestry looking dress, I would look old because we associate it with like the 16th century style, but it could actually be pretty cool in Brooklyn in 2023. I don't know,
Right.
to like
I get
to
you.
like look like that, right? Um yeah. So yeah, long story short, I did not associate Vetiver Extraordinaire with a old man scent. I was
Awesome.
like, nah, this is a very timeless, quote unquote, like what does that mean? But it's like I can't associate this scent with a 70s cologne that used vetiver,
Got it.
right? I think
It's a very timeless vetiver, I have to say. Some Guerlain vetivers, for instance, come across a little bit more, you know, serious. I'll put it that way.
right.
But I feel like Vetiver Extraordinaire almost feels like it came out like couple of years ago. It doesn't feel like it's been around for 21 years, which it has. I think that's actually an amazing credit to that scent and how it's been able to stay relevant in terms of like when you smell it, it doesn't smell dated, you know, at all.
Right. No, for sure. For sure. I was looking for, I think it's a Guerlain scent that is like heavy, like big vetiver. It might just be like
Vetiver.
L'Homme or like L'Homme Extrême or something.
Is it
It
not the
might
vetiver?
be. Well,
They
so
had
I'm
two vetivers. They actually
right.
created the original vetiver, which Roja Dove was inspired by to create his vetiver from. And they also had another type of
Right.
vetiver in a frosted glass that was kind of like striped. Um, I remember another YouTuber named Drakdoc talking about that fragrance very, very highly. Uh, beautiful, beautiful. Like I think Guerlain does that very well, but they also, when they do vetiver, they create this classic style vetiver consistently. Even Thierry Vasa, he's picked up on that tradition of using more classic styled vetiver fragrances as opposed to making something.
Right.
Because I think vetiver extraordinaire comes across a lot more modern, even though it was a 21-year-old fragrance. But yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. That's why I wanted to like compare. It's like, yeah, you have like a more traditionalist, so to speak, like approach that like resembles a lot of stuff that was like done before that, and then this vetiver extraordinaire, which is pretty unique. I mean, I don't think I've like smelled anything quite like it,
I agree.
like before it came out and after it came out. So,
I agree.
um,
I agree.
yep.
What did you? So, do you find that you're a fan of typically woody fragrances now, or do you find yourself
Yeah,
more interested
I
in
definitely
broader?
like. Yeah, so I think for myself, I like woody fragrances. But I'm like open. I'm open to so many things. I'm like having a bit of a Neroli moment right now.
Ah,
Um, yeah, I
I
think
mean, I love
Neroli.
Neroli, man.
I oh
Great
yeah,
sense.
no, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
definitely good.
Neroli, I had a bit of an iris moment also. Um, I mean, still kind of like looking into those things. Uh, Yeah, I think that there are like flowers that need to be, um, I think, used in more uh, compositions
Like,
for
what flower
men,
would you
quote
like to see
unquote.
more of
Uh,
in a men's fragrance?
uh, Jasmine.
Ah,
Uh, yeah, yeah, jasmine. I think like jasmine has been like identified as a like feminine flower for like too long. I think there are like some exceptions, like some like, men's fragrances like will, include light notes of jasmine, but
Hmm.
I would like to see like something a little bit more confident. You know,
Hmm.
it's like, no, no, no. This is not just a hint of jasmine. It's like, yeah, we're like working around jasmine here.
Nice.
Um,
That, I mean, you know what
yeah.
I noticed?
I've been like,
Roja does a lot with jasmine. I mean, I noticed there's, I
uh-huh.
think, jasmine in every fragrance that Roja makes. Um,
Oh
but
wow.
you're right. There's not a lot of fragrances that lean into it in a masculine context. That's a
Hmm.
very
Hmm.
very good point. Have
Yeah.
you so is that like what you would say is your favorite flower in fragrance?
No, I don't have a favorite flower. I don't have a
Nice.
favorite flower. All flowers are beautiful.
Okay,
All
I
flowers are
feel you.
beautiful. They all have like their own merits. It's like what are you going to do with it basically?
Hmm.
It's like
Great point.
can you actually like make this thing smell good? Uh, it's a composition, you know.
The flower I would say I have the most difficulty with would have to be violet. Because I find that violet always gives me pickles all the time. I don't know what it is about
Yeah.
violets. Sometimes I see violets and, well, I smell violet fragrances and they're nice, but then after a while, it's like that pickle juice kicks in, and then I'm like, I can't get
Hmm.
it out my mind. It's better to not tell
Yeah,
me
yeah.
violet is in it. But then
Uh-huh,
again,
uh-huh.
I'll catch it, because it'll be like that
Yeah, yeah,
dill.
yeah.
But like Santal 33 is like pickle juice and sandalwood to me, and I
Right.
can't wear it now because of that, because I find it off-putting. Um,
Hmm.
and pickle juice. My sister used to drink pickle juice all the time, and now I'm like pickle juice. But anyway, I can't do it. That's probably like the hardest flower for me to get into. Um, do you have like any flowers that you don't like, or you
And
prefer not
I
to
think
smell?
no, I think that yeah, Violet is certainly a tough one.
Hmm.
It's a tough one to do well,
That's the truth.
or like to do in a way that's gonna you know uh, trigger a response from me that's like not gonna be like, oh, I don't know about this,
Right. It
but
takes
more
things
like, oh,
over.
okay, yes, Violet, pretty cool, yeah. Um, No, I
So,
don't think there's like anything in particular that I don't like. There's yeah, okay, no, maybe there's one thing that I don't really like.
okay.
And I have not identified exactly uh what it is yet. I think it could be cashmerean or like some derivative of that.
Okay.
But
Fake
just
vanilla.
something that seems well, I so maybe it's not cashmere, but it's
Mm.
something in a lot of uh, contemporary perfumes that seem to uh, be a fixative or something that like sticks like the top notes really high and like makes them just like resonate forever. And so it's
Mm.
you have like I I don't really know how to like say that in like better words,
No,
but
I think they make a lot of sense. And a
it
lot of companies are doing that on purpose because the top
right.
ingredients in a fragrance typically are the most attractive. And the
Hmm.
opening and if they could make the opening of Sauvage last more than 15 seconds, I would say Sauvage is a very good perfume. But it
Hmm.
dries down into genericness, but that
Hmm.
opening of Sauvage is amazing. If that was able to if that bergamot stuck around for like an hour or two, oh, I think that fragrance would be a lot
Hmm.
more worthy of its love than it is. But yeah, I'm
Hmm.
sorry. You were talking about those fixatives that allow those top notes to last longer. I'm sorry.
Well, so there's I guess like fixative that allows the top notes to last longer, but also some kind of like artificial sharp top note that doesn't really have a smell, but just kind of like a burning texture, like in my nose for some reason. And there are like some scents that do that, and it's like usually yeah, like scents that want to smell expensive, basically, or just
Nah.
that want to. like focus on projection or like sillage. It's basically this like secret ingredient for a scent bomb. Basically, I
It
I,
could
I
be
don't know
ambroxan.
like it
You
could be
think that could be it?
ambroxan. Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
could be ambroxan. I mean, that's that thing that makes well, not it's one of the things that makes Baccarat Rouge so explosive.
Hmm. Hmm. Could be that. So I don't know. I haven't like figured it out yet completely. I've been kind of looking into it, but I feel like there are so many scents that like have this very basic core and just this
Yeah.
like aura of just like projecting energy uh that's just like, you know, overwhelming to me. And it's
Mm.
just like loudness for the sake of loudness, or like loudness for the sake of just like being noticed or something.
Can
It's
you
like a
think of a
lot of
scent off the
people
top?
like care a lot. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Can you think of a scent like that off the top of your head? Like one of those fragrances that
Um.
make you annoyed. Which one would you say if you had to think of
Oh,
it?
oh man. Yeah. So I think that I smelled something recently uh that had that, and it was from the house of Obvious, and it was un oud, like Obvious is oud.
Wow.
And I feel like they had kind of a um man, I'm sorry, I'm not finding all my words tonight. It's
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 all
my
good, man.
French brain kicking in. Um, it has kind of a frail, like not very uh like confident center of oud, but that's just
Okay.
enveloped in this like projector thing.
Got it.
Right? And so you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm smelling something sharp and whatever," but you have to kind of really go into it to like actually finally get what makes uh oud. I don't know, like some depth, some like subtlety, like depth, color or whatnot. It's a very, you know, at least I found it to lack body
Mm.
basically. And so it's like that fake body ingredient that just, you know, gives it more proportion and like dimension than it really kind of should have. It's
Okay.
like really like you're inflating something uh that shouldn't be that big basically, if that makes sense.
I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
That's
So
fascinating. Now,
that
I gotta ask you, there was a particular fragrance that I remember you putting me on to a while back at Bergdorf Goodman, and it was a well. You actually have to share with me those last two fragrances. I'm wondering if one of them is it. So, yeah.
all right. So one of them is when I started like getting into like perfumery some more. I moved to New York with the idea of like making scents myself, and
Wow.
realized it cost a lot of money. It was very difficult. I would make myself nauseated, and that wasn't like working too well.
Okay.
But before I moved, I was like browsing for Grantica, and I saw that there was like a line that was being released by this New York, at the time, New York perfumer called Hans Hendley Perfumes. And I was
Okay.
like, oh,
Oh
that
yes,
sounds cool.
yes.
And I clicked on the bottles, and I started like reading the descriptions and stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of dig this. It seems pretty cool. So I like sent Mr. Hendley an email saying like, "Hey, I'm just a Swiss guy about to move to New York, and I would like to make some sense. Could I like meet you somewhere and like talk to you about, you know, this stuff?" And he
That's
was
awesome.
very, very kind. And we met in a cafe at a cafe in Brooklyn, and
That's awesome.
we talked about scents and stuff. And I think like shortly before we met, I ordered a like sample pack of the collection to like really, you know, have an idea of like what this person actually does.
Hmm.
And it was like all bangers. And the one that became actually quite a signature scent for me was this bottle, Fume, by Hans Hendley.
And
Hendley
hold on,
Perfumes Fume.
let me, there we are. Okay, so Henley Perfumes Fume. Oh, that's I've never seen that bottle. I've heard of the brand, but I've never smelled their fragrances before. And what was it about? Like, did you smell them, and then that was what attracted you to learn more about them, or was it something about the look? Was it something about like the names, presentation? What attracted you most?
Right. I think it was very random, to be honest. It was
Wow.
just that night I was in Switzerland, like preparing for my move to New York, with this idea that I was going to make perfumes. Uh, I saw this line like on the first page, and I clicked, the thumbnails or the links or like whatever it was, the images, and read the notes, read the description, and I just kind of appreciated what was there. And I was like, I've never heard of this. It seems to be like a one guy operation.
Mm,
This guy's based in New York. He probably has a little bit of time, maybe because he's not like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure like the CEO of Dior has more time than Hans Hendley does, but he wouldn't have given me a minute.
right,
But
right, right.
Hans Hendley, you know, agreed to meet me,
That's
and so we
insane.
met.
Listen.
Um, yeah, yeah,
And what was the fragrance
and
that you were attracted to the most from him that really like
well,
captured your mind?
it was this one. It was Fume. Like
Fume.
I had never smelled a scent that expressed those smoky, like coniferous woods so well. It really, I think so. Hans Hendley also has like a background as a photographer, as an art director for some artsy projects. I can't remember exactly. And he grew up in Texas, and so he also had this kind of uh, lived experience of smells from the natural world. He'd go out in like resinous forests, and do like campfires and whatnot. So that is like
Mm.
what informed his decisions, basically, in composing this scent. And it actually like brought me back to experiences that I had with building fires and stuff, because it's something that I used to do in Switzerland a little bit. I was, very much into like going in forests and, smelling trees and leaves and dirt and
Mm-hmm.
making fires and stuff. Um,
Fascinating.
and so yeah, that's
And that's what that scent
it. It
just
it, it
takes you
like
to.
resonated with me. Right. Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you showed it to me, I have to say I was extremely impressed. Um, I mean, for someone who is like, was Hans Henley classically trained? You think, or
I think he's self-trained.
he's self-taught? Okay,
So,
see, that's
self-taught. Yeah.
I find like perfumers who do that, they because they don't know the rules to break, they usually break the rules all the time, and it turns into something very unique and interesting. And when I smelled Fume, I was very very impressed. It it stayed on my skin for a nice amount of time. It wasn't aggressive, but it was present, and that woody smokiness like stayed with me for a long time as well, and I found it very much unlike anything in the store in Bergdorf Goodman.
Hmm. Hmm.
Usually you'll find
No, for sure.
alternatives to things that you love in the store, but there was nothing like it that I could point to, or nothing even like it in my collection, and I own a lot of smoky fragrances. So I was very, very thankful for you to put me onto that scent. I'm actually definitely going to be picking up a a sample pack from this brother's line because there's this one fragrance from them, and I'm curious what you would say about it. There's this one fragrance from him called Bourbon that I am really really curious
Yep.
about. Have you smelled that one as well?
Yep.
What do you
I
think of it?
have. I have. I think. Are you familiar with Keelan's Angel's Share?
Yes.
I think it's kind of like that, but way better.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah,
Similar
I
but
he
better.
ages it in an oak barrel. Actually, it's like
Oh
barrel
wow.
aged. Uh, yeah. No,
See,
he takes his craft pretty seriously.
See, scents like that, man, sounds like something I love. Like I'm. That's a fragrance that bourbon I think is a fragrance that would be perfect for me. But I would be curious to wear bourbon on one part of my arm and fume on the other and see what concoction that creates.
Oh
That's
yeah.
insane. So
Oh yeah.
that fragrance made a major impact on you. Why?
I thought it was just so unique, and it gave me memories from, of home, and it just kind of felt
Mm,
like this actually corresponded closest to who I was, or who I believe I am as a person. Like attracted to nature. Like I like building fires. I like this
mm.
like whole poetry behind it, and whatnot. And so I don't know. It's like, to me, it was just like, oh, this is perfect for me. Like and like I would be very surprised if more than 100 other people in the U.S. or no, I mean probably more than 100 people, but definitely like lower than thousands, uh, actually have this and wear
Mm.
it. So I don't know. Like, to me, it was just unique and resonated, all the way.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for sharing your hidden gem with my audience and me because that fragrance, fume, is on point. And when I tell you guys it's something that doesn't smell like anything you know, it's also something that will allow you to stand out in a way that's absolutely unique and interesting. And you won't blend in. You'll literally be the trend wearing fume, I think. And yeah, that I think that's an amazing find that you was able to discover that and so randomly. I love it when finds like that happen out of the blue. I mean, that must have made you feel like, yeah, my taste is on point. It also has a. It must confirm it also because there's 4 point. It's a 4.33 rating out of 5.1 Fragrantica, and that's not easy to do because there's a lot of people with very interesting reasons to dislike things on Fragrantica. To get that many people to agree that that scent is so on
Mhm.
point is pretty interesting. So it just made you feel like, and that was a fragrance I guess you started. Was that something of a new find or something you've known about for years?
No, it was really completely new. I
So how
had
long have
I
you
had
known
no
about it?
idea. I mean, Henley and Fume.
Yeah, like how long have you been exposed to the brand and the fragrance?
Uh, well, ever I bought this fragrance for the first time. Um, I think about like 9 years ago or
Wow,
something.
so
Like
you've
when I
bought
when I
multiple
moved to.
bottles.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I bought multiple bottles of this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he
Wow.
he has like he had some like other things that are like now discontinued, but that I bought for uh, the person I was dating at the time, and who eventually like became my spouse. Because I
Nice.
was like, wow, this smells so good on her, and it's like such a beautiful like fit. And
What
so
fragrance did you like on
uh,
her from Henley?
so he had one at the time that was called Jade, but that's been
Mm,
discontinued. And it was kind of a minty scent, but a very like interesting and pretty uh, take on mint. And that was like just like gorgeous for the warm months.
Did you wear it as well,
And
or was
after that, no, 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 no.
okay?
It was all,
Oh, her.
yeah, all her.
Got it.
Uh huh.
It has violet in it. I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead.
Ooh, well, there you go. Well, there you go, man.
Yeah,
I should have known better before dissing
there was
it.
no pickles on
All
her
right,
though. I
Jade.
mean, she didn't smell like pickles when she wore it though,
Oh
right?
no,
Okay, there you go.
no, no, no.
So
Or
Henley
just
knew what he
like
was doing.
the most delicious pickle in the world.
Ah, nice. Whoa. Oh no, but bump. Yeah, man, got you. So that fragrance, so that fragrance, that brand, you've been wearing that fragrance for 9 years. You bought multiple bottles. Was that the scent you started wearing? I guess after you got over, well, I guess since you got over your signature Vetiver Extraordinaire.
Well, so it was something to follow me during the winter and cold months, basically.
Got it.
I feel
Got it.
like Vetiver Extraordinaire is like nice for, warmer months, and Fume was just like perfect for the winter months.
Nice. So you had
Yeah,
the signature fragrance for hot weather and cold weather, pretty
pretty
much
much,
at a
pretty
point.
much. Yeah,
Smart.
yeah, yeah.
Like that's not a bad thing. Like if you're a person who doesn't want to spend a ton of money on fragrance, even if you just chose four fragrances that are general purpose, things that you can wear in the climate that you live in that are appropriate. If you could even
Mhm.
do that many and you find those four fragrances that are not bestsellers, guys, so you don't smell like other people's dads, exes, and brothers, something that something that'll allow you to make your own scent memory with the people in your world. It's a great, great suggestion in my opinion. So I gotta ask you, Dave, what was that last scent that has made a major impact in your journey of fragrance?
Well, so I wouldn't call it like major impact, but it was
Okay.
definitely one of the nicest finds as of late.
Okay.
So I was working for a client who was looking for a light, more simple-ish floral,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I based on the profile that we had set up together. She responded like very well to orange blossom. She responded very well to jasmine, and combinations of both, and variations with like maybe some other florals.
Nice.
And while I was searching, I couldn't believe it was like my first time smelling it, but I ended up smelling Jasmin de Pays by Paris Monte Carlo, and the nose behind it actually is Jean Claude Elena, which like was
Get
like,
out of
oh my god,
here. Get out
oh
of
my god,
here. That's insane. Okay. That's one of
yeah,
my
yeah,
favorite
yeah.
perfumers, gotta tell you. Like
I
Jean-Claude
mean,
Elena is a legend
legends,
to me.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
People always talk about, Alberto Morillas, but in my opinion, like ah, Jean-Claude
Yeah.
Elena is he had such a voice in the world of
Oh
fragrance.
yeah.
But oh
Hmm.
man, so he designed Jasmine de Paille. By the
Yeah.
way, I gotta tell you, David, I appreciate having a native French speaker. I mean, well, a person who can speak French, um, very, very well on the on the podcast because you say the words so well. Jasmine de Paille, I'm so New York. Uh,
That's good.
Jasmine de Paille.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
yeah.
closer?
It's pretty
Okay.
good. It's pretty good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nice. So, what is it about this fragrance that really, really drew you in? Why is this fragrance so impressive to you?
Well, so I feel like that's what I wanted to I mentioned earlier stuff about like memory and whatnot, and this was I think the thing I wanted to talk about was like this scent. Um
Mm,
yeah, it reminded me of jasmine that I smelled in southern France, not too far from Grasse. And Jasmin Pays is like from the Grasse edition of this like Paris Monte Carlo line.
Got you.
Um, and
Yes,
Grasse
yes.
is where Jean-Claude Helena like trained basically. He trained
Wow.
in one of the like perfumeries over there. He was like cleaning out what are those called in English? Alambic. I can't remember what the name is in English, but like basically the big like distilling paraphernalia, he like cleaned that out, and that's like how he started his work into perfumery before
Mm,
he started like composing stuff and giving his input and becoming a absolute legend. um and I read a book of his years ago, I think around the time I was looking for my signature scent, as when I was really getting into perfumery. And I remember him like mentioning something about, I think his favorite scent was uh, the smell of jasmine in glass. And so, like,
mm,
to me, it's like, whoa, not surprising that like this is like so freaking amazing, because he, yeah, like composed a scent that I guess needed to replicate this memory of his, of like his favorite jasmine smell in Grasse, right? And so
mm,
here he is like being hired by Paris Monte Carlo to make a Grasse edition like jasmine scent. And so I feel like he really like put his heart into this and like made this
mm.
like really beautiful like moonlit incredible jasmine. It's just like a wonderful smell.
So it comes across like a night blooming jasmine, one of those more like
Well,
like
so jasmine tends to smell at night.
right.
You can like sort of smell it during the day, but like when the sun is kind of like cooking, it like dries stuff out.
I see.
And the smell is usually like not as potent. So when you really want to smell jasmine, is when the sun goes down and the flowers catch a break and they start expressing themselves really fully. Um, yeah, and yeah, I don't know. Like to me, it just brought me back to again like my time in southern France. I had been in Grasse as a young kid actually. Around the time I was tasting wine with my parents, um, and so
Oh, that French
you know,
culture. Amazing.
yeah, yeah. So
That's
so
interesting
yeah,
though. So in Grasse, I hear that there are so many amazing family perfumeries that are still in existence. I mean, I own fragrances from Molinard and I own fragrances from Gallinard. Oh no, excuse me, Fragonard. But there's Gallinard and
yeah.
all the odds that are in Grasse. When you were last there, like when you go there, like what are the things that you remember most? Or like when you think about Gras, like what is it that like really strikes you? Is it the scent of the city?
So I haven't been in Glass since,
Okay.
to be honest with you. Yeah, I think I was like 6 or 7. Actually,
Okay.
that's when my mom like bought me like a little like smelling game where you had like little vials with like scented things in them, and it was kind of a puzzle, right? Like, oh, what is this? Oh yeah, this is like the smell of coconut, and this is the smell of um, honeysuckle or like whatever jasmine,
I just feel like that
um
is such an interesting thing to do with your children that you don't really hear about. Well, I don't normally hear about.
mhm.
That is such an awesome way to expose your child to something that for yourself became a lifelong passion. It's just fascinating
Mhm.
how things just happen step to step to step to step that leads you to where you are.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
No, I mean, but I totally agree, but I think that the sense of smell, like every other senses, can be trained, right?
For
It's,
sure.
you know, you can be trained to like recognize, you know, which note is what on which scale, or like which chord, you know, and you can like taste things, you know, like sommeliers and stuff who are like tasting wine, and you know they'll close their eyes and like taste the thing. It's like, oh yes, this
Hmm.
has a peppery note that reminds me of, I don't know, Sanso, or like whatever grape varietal, you know.
Right.
And the same is true for your nose.
Absolutely. I
And
tell people all the time, you
yeah.
just got to expose yourself because most people,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
most people who drink wine cannot tell well, people who start their journey in wine tasting and wine like consuming and connoisseurism, they start off with a very basic taste. They will never be able to tell the difference between expensive wine and cheap wine. But as your taste develop and grow, those things have become a lot more easy to identify. So I feel like a lot
Hmm.
of people in the world of fragrance, we have very basic tastes, and then we evolve those tastes. And some of us graduate
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
niche, whereas some of us think that the best fragrances in the world are made by, Versace because Donatella is such a cool diva. But I'm just curious,
Hmm.
like, is there, where do you see like, where do you see your, do you have like a new favorite thing that you're enjoying now, like other than the Jasmine Dubai? Is there like a new find that you are really, really, really finding yourself into?
So Jasmine P was a really good one. I like rediscovered Eau de Gentiane Blanche from
Ah,
Hermes's
Hermes.
cologne collection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Great
So that's
fragrance.
another Elena.
Great
That's another
fragrance.
Elena. So
Funny thing, I
yeah.
smelled, so until I started working at Bergdorf Goodman, I had no idea that Von Cleef and Arpels first was his first fragrance. Blew
Mm.
my mind. And it
Hmm.
smells like it's a very classic perfume. It's a very, I usually, like in Bergdorf, I usually sell it to women over a certain age because it's like their signature scent or one of the fragrances that define who they feel they are. And and
Hmm.
also like a lot of people travel to Bergdorf, well, to New York to pick it up to take it back to wherever they're from because it's not as easy to
Hmm.
find elsewhere. But yeah, I was blown away to find out that first was Jean Claude Ellen's first fragrance, and it is really, really fascinating. Probably one of the strongest scents he's ever made, I would say, because he
Hmm.
likes to do
Hmm.
things on a little bit of a hush kind of vibe. But
Right, right.
what do
Yeah.
you think about Christine Nagel? Completely off topic. What do you think about Christine Nagel's um, foray into Hermes taking over? Do you think she's doing a good job, or do you feel like, or have you been following Nagel's work since she's
No,
been?
I have not been following, but is she the one behind Agareben?
Uh,
Because if she is,
wait a minute, which one?
if she,
Wait a minute, say that
yes, yes,
again.
she is. Yes, she is. Agar Eben.
Oh yes, yes, yes. See, man, that damn
Heck yeah.
accent. Yes, a guy
Yeah,
Ben
yeah, yeah.
is really, really. I mean, the one of the freshest, cleanest oud fragrances I've ever smelled. Definitely worthy of being part of the Hermescence collection for sure.
My goodness, like as far as I'm concerned, it's an instant classic. Instant
Really?
classic. I don't Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that
Wow, that's high
it is
praise,
such
man.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's like one of the best composed uh sense of the past like 5 years or something.
Whoa.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whoa. That
Definitely.
is that
Because
is whoa. Wow,
because
I love that. Go ahead. I love that. Tell me why. I would
because
love to
like
hear this.
is
Uh-huh.
oud is so like used. It's like, oh yes, this like very expensive thing that is like so potent and you know like luxurious, and it's something that you know the princes of like the Gulf, you know, they wear that, and you know they spend like tens of thousands of dollars on bottles and whatnot. And so there's this kind of like idea of, you know, an expensive smell, being like very powerful, very luxurious, very noticeable by everyone in the room and
Right.
whatnot. And I feel like this take is actually like very uh, elegantly, I wouldn't say like quiet, but it's speaking at a like reasonable volume and tone.
Wow.
It's just like it has that just like self assurance and like uh, confident elegance that doesn't need to be loud at all. It's just
I
like
get kind of
I
what
am
you're
like
talking about.
perfectly
Hmm.
right. It's
I get
like
what you're talking about. It's not
I
like a
gotta yeah
it's not like a big Gucci logo sweater. It's more like a Bruno
right.
Cucinelli $500 custom T-shirt that has no logo on it whatsoever. It's very understated, but it's luxurious. It's expensive as hell. It's exclusive, but it's not like trying hard. It's not like it's not trying
Hmm.
to prove anything.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
I give it
it's
that.
like the
Agare
least
Ben is
try
in that
hard
world.
oud for sure. Yeah. And I don't
100%.
yeah, I don't love like try hard stuff too much.
Okay.
Uh
I love a try
like,
hard every
you
now and
know,
then.
yeah. Yeah.
I love it. I mean,
Yeah,
every now and
we
then I like to be bold, but I get you. Now, it's not.
right,
There's a
right.
time and place for everything.
For sure, for sure. But yeah, like we were talking about like scents that are like expensive or that like smell expensive,
Hmm.
and I think that that's kind of a um it's kind of a limiting idea, I think, in like perfumery also. It's like,
Mm.
oh yeah, if I can smell it from a mile away and it smells extremely concentrated and like complex
Hmm.
and stuff, therefore it's a good scent. It's
I
like, I
appreciate
don't know if
that.
it works that way. I
Yep.
don't know if like that's what you need in the equation that's like sufficient, right?
A hundred
And I
percent.
can like talk smack about like some brands that are just that. It's like, oh yes, if you buy this brand, you're gonna spend like $500 on a bottle that has like 5,000 ingredients in it, and that like smells like Marie Antoinette's unicorn. Um, and
Clive Christian, I think I hear you.
and
No,
you're
I'm
like,
sorry. Go ahead.
that's definitely one of them. Yeah, no, for sure, for sure.
I do. I have a
Yeah, and
soft
it's
spot
just
for
like
Clive, though. But go ahead.
I mean, there's a scent that I don't hate from Clive Christian, and I don't like hate all of it. I just don't
Mm,
really like what it stands for and like where
I
it
got
brings
it.
the discourse, basically, right? Because it's like it's not helpful for uh like understanding perfumery, basically, because it just kind of like makes expensive and complex and elitist like that is what's good, and like the rest
Mm,
is like not in the same ball game, right? Whereas
I
like
hear
I
that.
feel like it's not inclusive uh in terms of like what can be beautiful,
You know what
and
though?
like
I have
beauty is
this,
like way
but you know,
more.
but you know what? I have to. I appreciate you 100% for saying that. And there's this weird, and I agree with you 100%. There's this weird connect with how much you pay for things versus how much you value that thing. And I find that when people spend a
Mhm.
lot of money for something, that thing that they spend a lot of money on, they just hold in a high regard just because it was expensive. I
Mhm.
used to have
Mhm.
I have, when I started my fragrance journey, I wasn't into quality over quantity. I was a quantity guy, but I always chose quality quantity, but I was one that would get a bunch of cheapies that were like really, really on point and better than a lot of people would, give it credit for. But I was just always caught up in that monotony. And I have to say though, it's I feel that like a lot of times now I don't I'm into niche a lot more than I was before. And I have to say there's some niche fragrances that I own that I don't love as much as like a $30 fragrance from Bath and Body Works that I love called Mahogany
Of course.
Woods. So it's like sometimes price does kind of like dictate how we view or how we
Mhm.
value things and how we place
Mhm.
artificial value onto things. Has that ever clouded your judgment on a perfume?
not mine.
Mm,
No, no. I have uh scorn for like elitism, and
mm,
like like being like exclusive or like whatever. It's like, why should we like exclude anyone or anything or whatnot? It's like, okay, like some things are like gonna cost a lot to make. All right, fine. It's
mm-hmm,
like we live in a world with economies and stuff, and like, okay, we maybe there are some things that can, would, should, will, maybe change or won't. I don't know. I don't care.
mm-hmm.
But like, well, I do care, but this is not a conversation that we should have like right now.
Right,
But
right.
uh, but like this idea that, you know, like the more expensive the better, the more exclusive the better, uh, the more it reflects like a high status, the better. Or
Mm,
like I'm kind of against that. I'm
I
like, no, no, no.
appreciate that.
What does it smell like?
Right.
Is this like something that was like composed with artistry and like subtlety, finesse, like interesting ideas, you know, with like respect for, I don't know, the ingredients, or like respect for people in
Mm,
general, for like the natural, for anything basically? Or is this only just like a means to make money and to like
mm.
impress people who are impressionable, basically, right? And
Now I
so,
appreciate that. I would like to ask you a quick question. As a person
mhm.
who's an entrepreneur, right? And as a person that's in business, I mean, you are a fragrance concierge. Um, you know, you are an influencer. You literally, like you open your knowledge or your mind of knowledge to the public to make their to choose a fragrance for themselves. Do you understand or appreciate the business aspect um, to the exclusivity aspect? Like for instance, like your service is it's I guess it wouldn't be entry level for everyone, right? But
For
if
sure, yeah.
you value but if you value, let's say, a person who has great taste, who's taken a ton of time to educate himself and knows to what's available, what's great, what's worthy of a person's time. I mean, you had I get it. I kind of understand why companies focus on expensive options and raising prices, making things come across. I understand exclusivity and how that just adds importance to people's mind when they think or view another product. Do you see the value in, for instance, having like exclusivity within like your business field, like within your what you do for a living, or would you make it like accessible
um
for? How do you like bridge
no,
that? Because
so
it's kind of
I
difficult.
think that right, right, right. No,
Because
so
then you want
of
people to
course,
value your, you want people to value like you also want people to feel like when they're spending money with someone like you who has that knowledge, that they're paying for expertise,
absolutely. No,
you know?
absolutely. So I think that my services are extremely reasonably priced for like the
I
amount of
think so
work that I
too.
put in.
I think
Actually,
so too. You probably
like
could pay
for the amount
charge
of
a lot
hours
more.
that I put in. um yeah, but see, I want to be like as inclusive as possible.
That's
And
true too.
also, I have friends who have gotten like my services at like very friendly prices, uh,
I
free. A lot of them have, and so, you know, I'm like happy to share. Right? It's like, oh yeah,
I
David,
get you.
he's like this like scent guy and like whatever. So, you know, um, it's like really. So they'll like, a lot of the of my friends who like helped me put this business together, like my way of paying back is like, hey, I'll do something smeek for free for you,
That's
and I'll
awesome, man.
spend, you know, like 10 days working in payment. Like I'm paying with my time. You know,
Oh,
it's
and I've
like my
seen
my
how
time, my like engagement.
And I see how you
Um,
invest that time also. Like when
uh-huh.
you're in a store, like scouting fragrances for clients. I mean, and you just come to Bergdorf Goodman a few times to help your clients. I've seen you spend hours at a time just exploring fragrances to make sure something is what a client needs. And so, like, I mean, I don't want to put you on the
Mhm.
spot, but I was just curious, like, because there is an elitism in fragrance, especially in niche perfumery. And it's happening in the designer world where you have brands like Chanel and Dior that are literally charging like close to $200 for their designer fragrances at this point. And
Mhm.
so you are getting to this place of elitism in fragrance that is that is going rampant, but yet people still tend to fall in line and purchase the same few things. So it almost feels like the exclusivity factor that price points do kind of like pretty much create, they are working and it's creating this exclusivity, you know, as popular as certain fragrances are in the fragrance community, they are very, very not well known outside of that community. So yeah, I wasn't trying to like put you on a spot or make you defend, anything about, but I was just curious, like, what do you think about how do you bridge that? Like, do you think that companies should be more? Do you think that prices should be a little bit more accessible for more people, or do you understand how certain brands just need to create this image of luxury to sell their products in the first place?
Yeah, no, so I think that on a purely uh, like marketing level, business level, and whatnot. I'm not like a marketing and business expert, but I'm sure that if
Right.
they are like making these decisions, it's probably because they have like a team of very like knowledgeable people behind that are saying like, "Ooh, if we bump up the price, like whatever,
Yeah.
we're gonna get way more because like people are still buying it." And so, okay, whatever.
Hmm.
But do I believe that's like um, uh, okay, yeah, it's good
Moral.
for their business. Fine, they're making
Right.
numbers, cool. But is it nice? Is it like an inclusive gesture? No, I
You
mean
question the
quite the
morality,
opposite
basically.
because you're like excluding like more people. Yeah,
Got it.
yeah, but morality. It's kind of like it's those are like tough issues in the world of fragrance, and I mean fragrance is like usually like associated with luxury, and like luxury is a luxury. It's not inclusive.
Right.
Um,
Is there a
yeah,
fragrance
yeah.
brand that creates fragrances that are very expensive that you can see why they're expensive? I'm just curious.
Uh,
Since your stance on
yeah.
expensive perfumes is like you have a strong take on that, but I'm curious, being that you have that take, is there a brand that creates expensive fragrances where you're like, it makes sense why they cost this much, or no brand has replied that
Yes.
to you?
No, so I think there are some brands that like use an insane like concentration for like precious ouds, for example, and
Mm,
that's like literally more expensive than gold, I think, for
absolutely.
like per weight. And so it's just okay if you're looking at the market and like the price of commodities, then it makes sense that it's just like super expensive.
Got it.
Uh,
So
do
you're
I
talking
think that
about
it's
just
like
expense for expense sake, you know?
yeah,
I get
expense
it.
for expense sake, but also like, is it really? I don't know. It's like, is there like value added to the world when you're like selling a $10,000 bottle of perfume for like one of the like three people in the city who can like afford it? It's like, okay, cool. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. They will
I get
definitely
you.
get to enjoy it, and like, oh wow, so cool. You
I
smell
get
so
you.
good, bro. Um,
I
but
get you. I get you.
but yeah, I mean, I feel like for that, I would love to like imagine some kind of museum of scents, right? Where you have that like level of concentration of stuff that everybody could smell, right? And it's not just like the property of the richest guy on the block
A hundred
who can
percent.
afford it and who's going to have the like prerogative of smelling like that, right?
That's amazing.
Smell is for everyone.
So now name me, now you got to tell me now. I'm curious. One brand where it's like a fragrance is over 300, $400 where you're like it makes sense that that brand makes. So like is there one brand that makes expensive fragrances that are justifiable based on how they smell to you? Where the prices are
Based
justifiable
on,
based on how they smell. Let me
well,
ask that again.
see,
Is there any
I can't say like based on how they smell, but I can say like based on what they put in it, right?
Okay.
Because like to
Okay.
me, like it's like putting a price on art, you know.
I get that.
It's kind of like hard to it's kind of hard to say, but if there's $1,000 worth of paint on this thing and it took like 1,000 hours to make, I guess I can make some calculations to
Mm,
how much I would agree to spend on whatever piece of art. I feel like it's kind of like same for a fragrance. It's like you know how much did it cost to like make this? Does it smell like the person who made it like was really trying to do something like
interesting.
beautiful
Yeah.
or like well composed or harmonious
Hmm.
or maybe the contrary, because it like having a little bit of dissonance can be cool also sometimes, like
Yeah.
why the heck not. But is it interesting, and uh does it does it say something like interesting, I don't know, like at an artistic level almost, or at an emotional level or whatever,
Mm,
or is it just all does it all seem to be just about status
mm,
and the market or luxury or elitism or like
hmm.
whatever. um
That's
and
a
so
that's
that's where I
a
would say like
that's a very
yeah.
interesting. That's a very interesting conversation topic, and because they're and it's fragrances are getting more expensive every year. They're going up and up and up
Hmm.
and up. Of course, for a lot of us collectors, fragrances are getting cheaper because, of course, we're, getting like the near, a lot of us are purchasing, almost expired perfumes from discounters, and so we're saving a lot of money on fragrances that are costing a lot of money elsewhere. But I got to tell you though that I have a hard, being that I'm someone who loved designer fragrances forever, and then I started getting into niche fragrances within the last 5 to 6 years. I have to say, I'm there are certain brands where I smell their fragrances that are expensive and I'm like, that makes sense. And then there are certain fragrances that are expensive and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Concierge, the another Swiss brand, Alberto Morillas's brand, I sometimes I smell their fragrances and I'm just like, I cannot understand why these cost what they cost. And then there's some fragrances within the same line and I'm like, huh, it's like this this is amazing, but there's I don't mind if a brand is charging a lot of money if the fragrance speaks to that price point in some form or fashion, with the ingredients, with the way it was blended, with the execution of the scent overall, the way it just overall smells. Something about that fragrance is it has to make sense for that price point. There's something about it that must justify that point to me. And some fragrances within some brands just don't meet their standard for their price, in my opinion. But I definitely get you when you're saying that it feels immoral when brands are just coming out with fragrances in the world that we live in, where there's like the gap between the rich and the poor getting ever so wider, and with all these social issues, when you have all this hoarding of wealth, I get the sentiment, my man, for sure.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I have to tell you, Dave, I'm so grateful for you to come through on Simply Put Scents and share with us fragrances that really, really made an impact on you, and that are continuing to like intrigue you and make you happy. And I'm really, really thankful for you being the first person to be on my live to do this with me. It was an absolute pleasure, and I'm grateful for you being my
I
guinea
am
pig.
honored. Thank you so much for having
Oh
me.
no.
This was fun.
It was, man. I mean, literally, like we do the same thing in the store. I could, I almost
Hmm.
forget I'm working when you're in the store. I gotta stop doing that. You're costing me money, David. Um,
Sorry.
but no, but it's always a pleasure, my man, and it's always a pleasure to chat with you because you also have like a very interesting perspective that and you have great taste. So thank you for putting me
I,
onto a bunch of different things.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
So
I will surely see you like in a couple of days at
that's
Bergdorf.
awesome. Now, really quick, guys, I want to share with you David's website one last time. And here it is. You can always send him a if you would like to take advantage of his services. You can easily do that. Just contact him on this website, saint-osmeek.com. How do you pronounce that, by the way? Senos, Senosmeek?
If yeah,
See,
for our English speaking folk, it's gonna
it's
be Saint
Saint
Osmeek.
Osmic.
Yeah, yeah, Saint Osmic. I mean, why the heck not? I am
You
not
know,
elitist when it comes to accents.
I love it. I
But
love
if
it.
you want to say it like a French guy, Saint Osmic.
Santos Meek. See,
Yeah,
I
hell
love
yeah.
the man. French is such a beautiful language, and yeah, guys. So if you're interested in David's work, you can always book his services right here. Get to learn more about what he does. He's an absolute brilliant, brilliant guy when it comes to the perfume world. I think he's just gonna blow up. I'm kind of feeling like I got him at a time where it's really advantageous because there's going to be a time where he won't have time to talk. So it was
Appreciate
an
it.
absolute pleasure, David. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, E.
Guys, thank you so much for being on Simply Put Sense. I hope you all enjoyed this live stream. It was an absolute pleasure to bring on my man David. Thank you so much for joining. It was a pleasure. I hope you all are well. Really quick, I want to go through some of the conversation that you all shared. Let's see. I'm just going through some of the comments. Let's see. Ah, nice. Might be picking up a discovery set from Henley. I would definitely suggest that. I'm going to be doing the same, Carlos. I think Henley is definitely a brand that more people need to be talking about, and they don't, shockingly. Maybe we can change that. And yeah, guys, so I think this was fun. I really, really think this was fun. I had an amazing time chatting with David about fragrances, and in the future, we're going to do this more often. If you would like to be a part of this, I guess this new format that I'd like to focus on a little bit more often, please let me know. Comment in the comment section. Let's keep in touch and let's converse about you getting on. And, all you need is an iPhone and an iPad, and that's it. So, guys, thank you so much. I hope you're all well. I'm very well, Professor X. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you're blessed, brother. Thank you so much, Roto Esco. Thank you so much, Brian Will, Micah Shoemaker. I'm glad you like your sample pack also, Micah. Glad you received it and everything came to you with no issue. And I'm glad you like those samples. I'm going to read your email. I haven't gotten through it yet, so forgive me. I'll respond. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining. It was an absolute pleasure. I'm blessed to have you all. Please like this video on your way out and comment when this video is uploaded. And of course, hit the notification and the subscription if you have not been doing that and you're watching this. It was a pleasure, guys, and I hope to see you next week, Wednesday, 6 to 7, live from Bergdorf Goodman. I'm that Cologne guy, E, and this is Simply Put Sense. And I'm OUT. Peace.